Look at you out there. You look fantastic. We're going to get started here. I'm going to say good morning and welcome to the 2016 Children and Youth Issues Briefing. Good morning. My name is Denise Mayotte, and I'm the Executive Director of the Sheltering Arms Foundation and the co-chair of the Start Early Funders Coalition. Thank you all for being here for the 13th annual Children and Youth Issues Briefing, especially those of you who drove a long way, and I know we have a lot of folks here from Greater Minnesota, so really glad about that. And I know there are people here who've been at all 13 of them, so it's exciting to see a tradition like this continue. Today, we're going to focus our attention on the needs of Minnesota's children and youth as the 2017 legislative session begins. We're proud to welcome everyone in attendance, and we're truly thankful to each and every one of you for your shared commitment to a brighter future for Minnesota's children and youth. Our shared commitment to the issues we'll discuss today and to constructive dialogue in these forums has definitely been influential in bringing about change in our community here in Minnesota. Thanks to bipartisan leadership from our elected officials, there's been strong investment in early learning in our state that will influence current and future generations. Across the state, we've seen sustained commitment to a comprehensive, whole-child approach to children and youth, from cradle to college to career. However, while much progress has been made, we all know we have a long ways to go. In Minnesota, we still face one of the most persistent racial opportunity gaps in the country. There is still much more that needs to be done in order to fully address the needs of our most vulnerable children across the state. We still do not provide full access to quality early learning opportunities for every child. Youth still do not have full access to high-quality, out-of-school time opportunities. Communities around our state, especially in Greater Minnesota, still struggle to attract and retain qualified educators at every level. We need now, more than ever, to keep bipartisan momentum to address these opportunity gaps if we're going to stay competitive as a state. In 2017, it's imperative that legislators make equity in education a top priority for the children and youth of our state. Closing the opportunity gap and ensuring quality care and education for every child is the surest way to guarantee a vibrant future for ourselves, our children, and all of the generations to come. Last year, here at this event, we stood before you and defined equity. Equity is giving families and children what they need to be fairly and justly included in our society. You may remember this picture that we shared with you. It illustrates the difference between equity and equality. Equality encourages us to give every child the same kind of help. Equity, however, charges us to tailor funding, programming, and curriculum uniquely so that every child receives what they need to reach their full potential. I want you to know, thank you. I want you to know that many of us are putting equity at the center as a principle as we work on behalf of children and youth in Minnesota. That's not to say, however, that we don't all have a lot of room to grow and learn, and that's for sure. With the persisting opportunity gap our children, particularly children of color and American Indian children, face, it's imperative we continue to center equity. It's also important that we recognize that equity is not only racial, but also economic and geographic. For example, we recognize that children and youth in Greater Minnesota face specific hardships related to economics and place. This, too, is an equity problem. Today, we've asked that all of our speakers speak with equity in mind. We look forward to hearing from them and continuing to learn and grow so that we get it right and serve the children, all of the children in our state. Today we're going to hear from diverse leaders who will shape the outcome of this session, including not only elected officials, but also community leaders, care providers, and students from across Minnesota. We'll hear perspectives directly from the innovators working day in and day out to tackle the challenges that we face. In order to achieve success for all of Minnesota's children and youth, we must pursue policies that address the whole child with flexible solutions for all families in our state. From prenatal health and education for mothers and families, through high-quality learning opportunities, all the way to engaging and empowering youth. It's our responsibility as the leaders of government, nonprofits, and community organizations and advocates to ensure that Minnesota gives every child the opportunity to thrive. Finally, before we begin today, I'd like to invite everyone to thank our generous event partners. This event is organized by the Start Early Funders Coalition, a statewide collaboration of over 20 foundations committed to ensuring that all children have access to high-quality early learning opportunities. Thanks Start Early and all of the Start Early staff and consultants. Additionally, I'd like to thank the Minnesota Council on Foundations and the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits, as well as to say a special thank you to our financial sponsors, our wonderful partner, the Greater Twin Cities United Way, and the Sheltering Arms Foundation. Give a little shout out to our trustees over there at a table. Thank you so much for making today's event possible. I'd also like to say hello to those participating via live cast from across the state. And I know there are a lot of you out there. We're so glad that you're listening. It's really great to be able to use technology to have a broader reach. And for those of you who are Twitter users, I'd like to encourage you to tweet about today's event using the hashtag CYIB17. That's the letters CYIB17. So I'm hoping you're all starting to tweet right now and keep it up during this whole event. We're going to have a little change. Oh, no, we're not going to have a little change. I now have the pleasure of introducing Jamie Tincture, who's the Chief of Staff for Governor Dayton, who will share with us the governor's priorities for this session for children and youth. Please join me in welcoming Jamie Tincture. Jamie, thank you so much for being with us.